You are listening to the Sideline Sass Podcast, episode 21, Call-Ups and Call-Ins.
Kaylee thought of that title, everybody.
Thank you.
We check in with our favorite beauty queen sports anchor in Omaha. To see about those Oregon State Beavers and their quest for college baseball world domination.
Domination!
All right, let's play ball.
I'll be the first to admit, I didn't know much about West Coast baseball until I moved out here, and I have been pleasantly surprised just to see how incredibly talented they are. I mean, they got 6 MLB draft picks on their team. They've got 3 first-rounders. I mean, they have a 4th overall pick who's playing second base. It's pretty incredible to get to interview these guys and talk with them. So it's huge for Oregon State.
All right, guys, so we just wrapped up some pretty emotional Major League Baseball milestones.
Yeah, I'm still on a high.
I mean, it's a lot. It's the next day, and I'm still processing how I feel, but we're so happy Robert Stock made it, and we got to see Sarah, so that was unbelievable. But now we're going to switch gears to another journey in the collegiate world.
Woo.
College World Series baseball is a big thing. It's a thing. People watch it. It's a thing. And the Pac-12 this year has been just lighting it up, which is great to see. You love to see West Coast doing well and in a sport that's primarily dominated by East Coast teams, except for some of those ones down south. But we are joined today. This is very special because we have someone who is there in Omaha. She just got drenched from a wandering rainstorm that was coming through. She is Hayley Lewis. She is a sports reporter and anchor for the local ABC News there in Oregon, KEZI, and friend of mine, press box friend. Welcome, Hayley.
Well, thank you, guys. I am honored to be here.
We
like
are
you
glad.
said, just got soaked. Lying out on the couch, but
That's awesome. So we're what?
I'm surviving.
We're T-minus, 2 hours till the first pitch, or?
Yeah, the first pitch is going to go on at 6 p.m. local time. So I have my Apple Watch still set to West Coast time so I can keep my brain somewhat sane.
Nice.
I really don't even know what time it is here. But I just know it's going to start at 6 Central Time.
Okay, so we're about 3.5 hours away.
3.
then.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
bad.
There we go. There we go.
Whatever. It's today. So.
It is today, and for all of you guys that don't know and who, you have to know, and you're listening to this podcast for a reason, so you should know, but Oregon State is playing Arkansas in the College Baseball World Series, so we're excited to see some Beavers kick some, what are they, the Ridgebacks?
No, Razorbacks.
Razorbacks.
Come on, Suey Pig. Suey. It's been...
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. See, and you know, because you got the southern roots, so you understand how big a deal this is for Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
And these fans are
It's
nuts.
just, the SEC has always just dominated, and SEC and ACC have always dominated in baseball, and so it's just a huge deal that 2 Pac-12 teams actually even made it to the College World Series, and the fact that we're in the finals yet again. I mean, they've already won 2 national championships back in 06 and 07, and now that we're back again, it's just proving that Pac-12 can hang up there, at the SEC, which is great because the fans here do not understand that, and they're all SEC all the way. And as much as I love my Southern roots and the SEC, I could go my whole life without hearing Suey again, or Pig Suey, or whatever the heck they say.
Suey Pig.
There we go.
It's weird. But how big is the contingency that Oregon State has had through the tournament so far, and how many fans do you think will be there today?
It's almost 1,400 miles, I think. Don't quote me on that, but it's out of all the 8 teams that made it to the College World Series, it is the longest drive. They had to travel the most to get there. I think they beat Washington by all of 17 miles, but the fans travel well, and I was shocked to see how many fans are in my hotel that I've seen on the streets that I've been able to talk to and interview. I mean, now, don't get me wrong, Arkansas, they're going to practically have their whole state here, I guarantee it. But Beaver Nation has traveled so incredibly well. I've been very impressed to see just how many of them have made it all the way out here. And that's huge because it changes the way that West Coast baseball is perceived. It changes the way that they can recruit. And it also gives them the publicity that they deserve because they are a ball club that's just as complete as Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that hopefully will change over the next couple of years because I'll be the first to admit I didn't know much about West Coast baseball until I moved out here. And I have been pleasantly surprised just to see how incredibly talented they are. I mean, they got 6 MLB draft picks on their team. They've got 3 first-rounders. I mean, they have the 4th overall pick who's playing second base. It's pretty incredible to get to interview these guys and talk with them. So it's huge for Oregon State.
That's amazing. That sounds like a dream. It really is a dream. But you know, we were kind of talking a little bit before, and everybody knows I've been a little bitter since Cal State Fullerton was beat out by Washington.
Understatement
of the year. But tell us a little bit about Oregon State's journey. I know, they lost to NC State their first game, were, put in the losers bracket, but they've obviously battled back. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, the first game was hard. It was unusual. They played a very uncharacteristic game, and they'll be the first to admit that. And these guys are very humble and saying, it was a hard game. Obviously, they had to adjust to having a turf infield. They don't really play on many of those out in the West Coast. They also had to adjust to the heat. I think it was 105 on the field. There was a 70% humidity, I want to say. But all the elements that went, the elements were against them because in Corvallis they're used to playing in 70, maybe 85 at the most with the rain that consistently comes. So this was definitely out of their element. And I don't know if it was just shaking the nerves or what, but once they got that first sting of defeat in that game against UNC, it's like they popped back and powered through and actually played to the level that they are capable of. And they, got back into playing Beaver baseball like they're used to. And that put them in a loser bracket, which means that they had to face Washington. Yeah. And so that was a great game to watch because it's 2 Pac-12 teams against one another. But I'll tell you something, when I was watching that game, the dugout from Washington's side was quite mouthy. Oh, yeah. And I was sitting there like, they're getting arrogant. They're getting cocky. And then Oregon State laid it on them. I mean, they destroyed them. And I can't really say, but I was pretty happy about that because it shut them up so fast. But so if you're bitter about that, I'm sure that will bring you a little bit of happiness that they got taken to the cleaners.
Absolutely.
Basically.
It definitely did bring a smile to my face because, I haven't even told Emily this story yet, but right after, my mom and I were watching the series, obviously, when Cal State Fullerton was playing Washington, and Washington was just, they have their shirts unbuttoned, they got their chains going, and you're
Nash on flesh.
You're
Nash on flesh.
You're like, seriously? You go to Washington, like, it's fine, it's UW, like, but I'm saying, like, baseball-wise, you're not in an SEC or an ACC school, so let's bring the cockiness down a little bit, but what's funny is my sister plays college softball, and she was at a hitting lesson, and this guy comes up, and he just randomly says to my mom, like, oh, how about that game last night with Washington and Cal State Fullerton? She's like, oh my gosh, I hate Washington. They were so cocky, so annoying, all this stuff. And he goes, oh, well, I play there. And and she was like, she's like, what? And he goes, yeah, I'm on the DL, but I'm a Washington baseball player. And
oh my God.
Yeah, and he's going there for hitting lessons or whatever. And so he didn't travel with the team, obviously, because he's injured, but he was just like, oh, that's just our style, we know we're good and blah, blah, blah. So he pretty much proved that wasn't just a baseball, like, game mode attitude. That's just the way that they are. So that was hilarious.
I guess so. And that's unfortunate because you can be good and you can be the underdog and you can, fight for the title of being respected as a good baseball team without being arrogant.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be arrogant to get there. Something my mom always tells me as a woman, she's like, you do not have to be bitchy to be a leader as a woman. And I just think that, take that as a lesson. You don't have to act a certain way to be great. Honestly, I think the people who are the greatest are the ones who are the most humble. And when interviewing Nick Madrigal for Oregon State baseball, he's the 4th overall pick in the MLB draft, and he's the most humble guy ever. And it's just a testament to success is followed by humility, and maybe they could take a lesson from that.
Well, I think that's important, and something that we try to impress in every podcast we do is we like to talk about the females that we meet along the way. Like, yes, we're covering sports that are primarily male, which is always fun. And we encounter a lot of the other sex, but when you do meet females in this industry, much like you and I met in the Cal Press Box, it's nice to, connect and not try and compete. Yeah. I mean, clearly I'm not competing with you and Kaylee for camera stuff, but like still, I think it's nice to find common ground and be able to forge friendships and cheer on each other's careers. So we like to celebrate that.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm glad that
there's so much room at the top.
Yeah.
Women empower women, like, continue to be kind to one another, because that will always follow you. People will always talk about that. And you can be aggressive without being rude to someone else. Like, there is so much room for everyone to be successful. So many women helped me to get where I am today, and I have so much further to go. And I hope to help anyone who ever asks for it, because that's just the cycle of life, and that's how you should live, is, continuing to help other people. I don't understand why girls can't be nice to girls, but it's been great to meet you. And, I remember in the press box, I was like, oh, you're a nice girl. This is great. We're going to be friends.
I know.
I texted my mom. I was like, I met a nice girl at sports.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's rare, but we're out there. We need to find each other. So this is like throwing up the bat signal, like let's all hang out. But so I want to switch. I want to go back to the baseball, but because you're talking about being nice, and that answer was just
perfect,
on point. But I want to let people know that the reason that Hayley is so eloquent and can speak so firmly about topics, I couldn't think of a word, is because she has been a pageant queen. She won the Miss Tennessee title, and you competed for Miss America, which, God, I can't even imagine. So can you tell me what that's like in a short, pageant-like answer, concise, and then also give me your thoughts on like the changes they made to the pageant. I've seen you write it on Twitter, but I'd be interested to hear you talk about how they changed the pageant.
Mm-hmm. Well, for one, I was never like Honey Boo Boo or Toddlers and Tiaras. I never did pageants as a kid. My dad's been a head football coach for like almost 27 years now. So my entire life has been, moving to the next town and moving for his career. And our life was centered around sports and football. And that was always the topic at the dinner table and something easy to converse about. So I considered myself a pretty tough cookie, being a coach's daughter and, never dating anyone until college because no one wanted to date.
It's scary.
But they're scared of my dad. And so pageants was never on my mind until I was in college, and I had a friend of mine tell me, hey, did you know how much scholarship money you can get through this? Because I was kind of looking at the numbers of, school is so expensive. Like, how am I going to continue to do this and not, graduate with a ton of debt? And she told me about the Miss America program, and I really blew her off because I thought, a pageant? Like, I'm going to call my dad and tell him I'm doing a pageant? And she explained more of it, and the amazing causes that they fight for. Also, your education is extremely valued. Your what you stand for, you get to your talent, your grades. It's all it's an overall person who can be talented at all these things, not just one category. And so I was like, okay. And then I get up on stage at Miss Tennessee, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the girl next to me is in law school. The girl on my left is, she's going to be a doctor in 2 more years. Wow. And I realized that the girls who I was sitting next to were far more educated than I was. And they also could speak so well, and they were talented. And the cattiness of pageants and the stereotype that people have, sure, that exists to some level, but not with the women that I've interacted with. And when you get to the Miss America level, it weeds out any of that cattiness. And what my experience through Miss Tennessee and Miss America was nothing but positive. So I kind of got into it on a whim. I won Miss Tennessee, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I went to Miss America and placed top 10 and still had no idea what I was doing.
Unbelievable.
But it really, it catapulted my whole career because when I returned to school, I was like, wow, I can talk well, I think, maybe.
You do speak well.
And I look decent on TV, I think, maybe.
And you're very humble, obviously.
And it just kind of, it worked, and it rolled, and it's been something I've just hit the ground running with, and I've never looked back because it's really worked and been suited towards my personality, and it's been a fun ride. It's opened up so many doors for me, and hopefully my talent will keep my foot in the door.
Is pageants now something that you still kind of pursue a little bit, or is that, you've put that to the wayside while you're pursuing your career?
I think I'm done. Mm-hmm. I was kind of a one and done.
Hey, when you get to the top like that, why keep going?
I would retire too.
Yeah,
man. Like that's
it is what it is. And to answer your question about the whole taking out and the bikini portion and all that.
Yeah.
That was just something I am 100% behind Miss America and taking strides and making it a more inclusive program. I was sad to see it go just because of the swimsuit competition taught me so much. That was one portion that taught me so much dedication about living a healthy lifestyle, things and habits that I have continued, now 4 years later, removed from Miss Tennessee, that have helped me live a better lifestyle. And it taught me I could push myself so much further than I ever knew I could. And the girls who are doing it, I hate when people say, "Oh, they're not eating." Oh, they're not. No, they're eating a ton, and it's just clean. Mm-hmm. They're eating in a way that's so dedicated. Like I want to compare it to how certain athletes will go on diets and work out in a certain routine that is so grueling, but it makes you in your physical, you get to your physical peak.
Right.
And that's what that portion of the program taught me. And it's just sad that other girls won't get to experience that. And that's just my 2 cents, but I, again, always will support Miss America. And I, definitely don't want other women thinking that that's the stereotype that they have to fit in or that's the role they have to be. I think it's all about being at your own physical peak for your body. But I'm sad to see that go. I'll be curious to see how the next couple of years roll with Miss America.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think that's definitely something that no one would have expected out of, especially this podcast. We're focusing on baseball and stuff like that, but that's such a great
body image.
And and
being healthy and happy.
Exactly, you're
being able to show it off. I like the I don't look like those women, so when I watch it, obviously there's a little bit of FOMO, but knowing that I could get there if I did the right things more frequently is inspiring. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy that if I were looking like that and doing those things, I would want to show it off too. I mean, that's just pride.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
To show off your confidence and all your hard work and dedication.
Yeah, I support it.
I like it too, but
whatever.
Yeah. We'll be supportive.
It had a good run.
It did. It really did.
I got to ask you a question now, and this may be a little bit harder. I don't know how often you get asked about this or if it's something that the media even talks about, but obviously the Oregon State baseball team has been in the news a lot in the past 2 years, particularly for not so warm feeling stories. And I'm sure as a reporter covering that, that's hard to talk because everybody has an opinion about what happened. Obviously the story, it started at the Oregonians, so it started at the epicenter of where you are, and it's kind of spiraled out of control from there. I'm wondering if there's anything that you could say to us or to our listeners that might shed some light on what it's like navigating a very difficult subject like that, and if you have any insight into any of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get the tweets that people will say some pretty cruel things back on Twitter if I tweet anything about Oregon State baseball or seem supportive of the team at all, just because, of the situation and what happened. But all I can say is I was not there last year. I was not there during the whole break of the story and whatnot. But in my personal interactions with Luke and speaking with him and interviewing him and talking to him in the clubhouse, I've had nothing but positive interactions with him. Seems to be a very stand-up guy and has great commentary, and clearly his teammates support him and truly cherish him and love him. And so I've only had positive experiences with this team and with interacting with him. But again, it's a sticky situation. I don't know what happened. I don't know.
None of us.
No one really knows the truth.
Yeah.
And I just have to remain and remind myself that I am a reporter. This is my job, and it is my job to speak with him and to speak with the team and to highlight the team. And that's just how I approach it, because that's all you can do. I'm not the judge. I'm not the jury. And, it's an unfortunate thing that happened, because at sometimes, you hear the different stories from both sides, and it's just like, it's really hard because no one knows the real truth. And if his teammates are supporting him and if his head coach is supporting him, then
that
I'm
has to count for something. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So do you think that, like you said, none of us really know what the full story is, and he does have such a backing from his team and his head coach. Do you think that there was ever a time that he sat down with all of them to say, look, this is what happened?
I'm
this is
sure.
Yeah, we've heard about that.
I'm sure he did. And, I guarantee he did. But the thing is, it's hard for me to be against him when all of his team and coaches are for him. Right. And knowing their character and knowing the program's character, it's really hard for me to think that they would, back someone who this really did happen with. You know what I mean? So I know that from what I have known of the team, they have an incredible bond and character, and it's hard to believe that they would support someone if that truly did happen.
Exactly.
So
and you wouldn't have seen the success in them as a team, because you that could break you apart. Something like that would divide people morally, on all levels. So to see them make it here, that's a little bit of a testament.
Like you said, it's got to count for something, right?
Exactly. So again, my interaction with him has only been positive and a very good interaction. Of course, no one really knows what happened, and I don't know what happened, and I will never ask because that's not my place.
Right.
So, sticky situation, but the best thing I can do is just focus on the baseball aspect of it and the team and what they're doing on the field.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate situation, because again, like I worked with children for years as Miss Tennessee and did all that. And, to asking my dad his opinion, as a father and certain things like this, it's a sticky situation, but I'm just going to continue to have the opinion of, hey, I've known this team since this date, and since this date, everything has been only a positive interaction and a great experience for me. So that's how I feel about it.
That's good. Well, so then my other question to follow up, and then we'll, move on to other things, but has the atmosphere, has anybody in the stands, has it been bad at all? Has there been any fans that are, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, not that I noticed. There are two writers here with me for different papers in Oregon, and they both went down to the field because they're like, okay, we're going to wait around and see if maybe when he goes to the mound for the first game, he gets booed.
Right.
We didn't hear anything. No one said anything. No one made any noises or anything like that. Of course, like the ESPN broadcast will talk about it and address the situation because it has to be addressed. Right. And, you'll hear the worst people are really the people on Twitter, because they can hide behind a keyboard and throw their opinions at you and say god awful things without any knowledge of what truly happened.
Yeah.
And that's really where I've seen the most, comments coming from, not really at the stadium and on the broadcast. So that's good. It's actually, I was happy to see that no one, did anything or said anything, but nice. I think it's really online where all the terrible things are said.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, 6 guys getting drafted. Has anybody said anything, or has there been any commentary surrounding the fact that this is, the second year around that Luke has not been drafted?
Did he address it at all? Did he say anything about not being drafted?
I didn't ask him because I don't really know what he's going to say to that, except for it sucks, because he's an incredibly talented pitcher, and it does suck. It's unfortunate. It really is. And it's the second year, and, he's probably arguably the best pitcher in college baseball right now.
Agreed.
So I haven't spoken with him about that. I know that a lot of people have done stories on it, and it's just hard for an MLB team to really, get the whole truth. And I know that my dad even called me this morning. He goes, hey, like, I'm in Kansas City. And he's like, everyone on the radio station, the Royals are talking about maybe picking him up and seeing if, like, Heimlich could come to the Royals and if people in Kansas City would support him, and kind of trying to investigate it a little more and get his side of things and see if he was wrongly accused of all this, and this. And I was like, wow, like, I'm happy to see that the MLB teams are being like, hey, this guy is so talented. Yeah. Why don't we do a little more investigating to really figure out the truth before we just write him off?
But like, how sad is that? You know, how sad is that he's at that place where that has to happen, you know? And I feel like with MLB teams, it definitely sucks for him. And with MLB teams, it almost feels like it's just like they're waiting for people to forget about it so that they can, you know, pick him up so that people don't say anything.
It's
and
a business, I understand.
Yeah, exactly. But instead of doing that kind of research and being like, look, we can get behind this kid. If everybody else can get behind him, let's figure this out. But, you know, obviously there's money involved in that and there's all those things. So hopefully, you know, we're definitely, I think, rooting for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And Middle America seems to be a good place for him to go because I think people there want to believe in that kind of goodness.
Comeback story.
Yeah, and I think, you know, but it's hard to convince, like you said, the internet. Like, you can do all the research you want about a kid and find out his side of the story, but people are going to have their opinions and they're always going to voice them. So it's a tough spot.
Yeah, and that's hard. Yeah. So I think the best thing that you can do is just try to formulate a personal relationship and make your opinions after that, you know, instead of the people on Twitter who are just ripping the whole team for a situational issue. Again, not trying to play it down because
of course, yes,
it's not at all in any way condoning something.
No.
But we don't really know if that actually occurred. So it's just unfortunate. It really is unfortunate.
If what happened really happened, it's awful. It's terrible. We all agree. I think everybody can agree on that. You know what I mean? But it's the not knowing that's very difficult. So. Well, I'm excited that you get to talk to him in such a positive environment because that's really what I care about is his pitching and watching him just be this incredible player in the team and stuff. So so moving into these 3 games we have laid out before us.
Potentially 3.
Well,
maybe 2.
I'm going to say it's going 3. I think it's going to go 3.
I bet it goes 3, but I would not be upset if it went 2.
Well, we already talked that you're moving there, so.
Fine with me. But yeah, I mean, he's supposed to start on the mound. Heimlich's supposed to start on the mound today, and he's had a little trouble in the past 2 outings in the College World Series. And I asked him yesterday, I said, so is there time to turn? And he goes, that's the plan. So I think hopefully he can go at least 6 innings today, and they can get some really good stuff out of him. But it's going to be exciting. Arkansas is good. They are a complete ball team. But Oregon State is they're hot. Yeah. So they're in a good position too.
That's awesome. Well, so we've been taking up a lot of your time here. We know you got to get back into the rain. But
oh boy.
Let's hear kind of how you think this is going to go. Like, do you have any bold predictions you want to say? Like first pitch home run, you know, crazy stuff that you think might happen?
I just think when Tyler Malone gets to the plate, there will be a home run. That kid has been hitting lights out lately. I tweeted out something that I think is so funny, and I don't know if anyone else thinks it's that funny. But his last name's Malone, and so I put a photo of Post Malone over his father. And
I saw that.
I think it's hilarious, and I just constantly keep tweeting Post Malone lyrics to encourage his home run skills. And but Oregon State has done just incredibly well at the plate when there are 2 outs and 2 strikes. They're very good under pressure. So if you see any big plays coming with 2 outs and 2 strikes, that's something that I would put some money on that would happen.
All right.
But I don't know. I bet it goes to 3 because both teams are so talented. But I can see Oregon State walking away with this. I really can, because if any team from the West Coast could do it, it's them.
It's going to be them, yeah.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, it's going to be fun either way, and I can't wait till they shut up those stupid pig calls. I cannot wait.
That's awesome. Well, we're definitely going to be rooting. I don't know about Kaylee, because are you going to root for Oregon State?
Oh, I'm absolutely. Hands down, yeah. Okay. If it were Washington, no shot.
You'd be like, no, you would root for Arkansas.
I would root for Arkansas. But no, I actually do really like Oregon State baseball, they've had a really good program for so long. I've known a couple guys that were on those teams in the past, like in their past championships. So I like Oregon State baseball. Other sports, I'm like,
Well, they don't really. Football there's no
we'll
football.
Figure it out.
Exactly. You can't really root for them in any other sport. But no, absolutely, hands down, Oregon State. Let's go Beavers.
Well, have fun. I'm gonna look out for those Post Malone tweets tonight. I'll be retweeting them.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And we'll check in with you towards football season. We're gonna be traveling a ton this year, and hopefully we get to cross paths somewhere.
Same here. I will be traveling with the Ducks all year,
Ooh.
so hopefully we can see each other at Berkeley again or something.
We'll definitely make something happen, and we'll show you some Bay Area love and take a Tennessee girl out on the town.
Woo.
Oh, there we go. I'm up for it.
All right, thank you again, and let's go Beavers.
All right, y'all. I'll talk to you soon.